The fifth principle. In this podcast, we continue to explore the 5 principles of the Mental Capacity Act by exploring the fifth principle, the less restrictive option. We'll also recap the key points to bear in mind when using the 5 principles. The fifth principle says, before the act is done or decision is made, regard must be had to whether the purpose for which it is needed can be achieved as effectively in a way that is less restrictive of the person's rights and freedom of action. Before you make a decision or act on behalf of a person who lacks capacity, you must consider whether there is another way to achieve the same objective that would interfere less with the person's basic rights and freedoms. Where there is more than one option, explore ways that would be less restrictive or which allow the most freedom for a person. Ensure always that the final decision allows the original purpose of the decision or act to be achieved. After all, it can sometimes be easy to lose sight of the original purpose after consulting other people for their views. The principle is about the less rather than least restrictive option. In some circumstances, what may be in a person's best interests may not be the least restrictive option. Here the best interest principle, the fourth principle, takes precedence. So, for example, it might be in the best interests of a person who lacks capacity to decide where to live, to move into residential care where their needs would be better met than in an alternative setting. The care home may not be the least restrictive environment, but the need to give the person the best care possible takes precedence, and some limits upon freedom yield to giving the person the best care possible. In practice, you will choose a less restrictive option and decide what is in the person's best interests at the same time. This is because both principles must be applied each time a decision or action may be taken on behalf of a person who lacks capacity to make the decision. Key points. Your decisions and actions should always be tested against the 5 principles. Make them part of your daily professional practice. Remember that the 5 principles underpin the empowering ethos of the Act. Resist the temptation to allow empowerment to yield to overprotection. Following the 5 principles will help to identify solutions in difficult or uncertain situations, as well as supporting you to make good decisions. Test your actions against them and consult the Mental Capacity Act Code of Practice regularly. The first principle says a person must be assumed to have capacity to make his own decisions about matters that affect him unless it's established that he lacks capacity. The second principle says that you must help and support people to make their own decisions. You must not conclude that a person lacks capacity to make a particular decision until you have taken all possible steps to support him to do so first. The third principle says that a person is not to be treated as unable to make a decision merely because he makes an unwise decision. After all, it could simply be the result of a difference in values rather than an inability to understand or use or weigh relevant information. However, the fact that a person makes an unwise decision does not mean that you should not intervene to provide support. The fourth principle says that any act done or decision made for a person who lacks capacity must be in his best interests. At the same time, the fifth principle says that you must explore options that are less restrictive of a person's basic rights and freedoms.